gendered ageism. There's a systematic distortion in how women's ages are depicted online, amplified by the most common tools that we use and take for granted. This new study found, how do you think the internet has to shape what we think is real? Well, a lot more than we'd like to admit. We've all heard about age and gender bias and stereotypes, but are these real or just opinions? Is it possible that these online tools that we have actually could push those ideas into our heads? Older women have been dealing with this bias on both gender and age. They're getting hit by both. There are plenty of examples of gender-biased, gender-based social expectations unfairly placed upon women. Keeping up with appearances just to look younger, because younger-looking women tend to be associated with more desirable in both professional and romantic settings. Parenting also falls on women's shoulders because of traditional gender roles, which results in larger gaps in career for women, and that also lead to pay gaps in older women. And this bias exists in the form of gendered ageism, where older women are discriminated against based on their gender as well as age in hiring and promotions across industries. At the same time, US Census data showed no correlation between female representation and age across industries. So this makes you wonder whether our society has a perceptual bias about age-related gender bias, and whether that's fueled by media representation on a larger scale. This new study found a culture-wide age distortion. Women are consistently depicted as younger than men across all major online platforms. The researchers analyzed more than 1 million pictures and videos from Google, Wikipedia, IMDb, Flickr, and of course, where you are right now, YouTube. The faces of celebrity women were actually systematically coded as younger than their true ages in their content. And you might be wondering, okay, isn't that a good thing? Like, what's the problem? Some women like to be seen as younger than they truly are. Well, this distorted age depiction is more pronounced when you look at jobs that are thought of as more high status, like leadership positions. There are correlation between gender and age associations. Look at which words are more associated with younger women in yellow: intern, secretary, or novice, versus older men represented in blue: director of research, chief of staff, and chairman of the board. Okay, that's demeaning. Even in industries where there are more older women than men based on census data, Google Images still showed men as older than women. Like, okay, the word chairman has the word man in it, and so this makes me wonder if we should have a chairwoman. But look at other leadership positions that are much more likely to depict older men versus women. Unfortunately for women, these unfounded biases are being amplified by Google. In the next experiment, the participants searched images on Google related to STEM careers and occupations, and they were asked to estimate the typical gender and average age for each position. In the control group, they were asked the same questions, but after searching for unrelated pictures like apple or guitar. The results show that the brain's priming effect in full volume. People who Googled images for specific positions consistently estimated women's age as younger than those who Googled images for unrelated things. When they asked what the ideal age was for hiring for that position, these participants answered differently for men and women. For jobs that are more female associated, their recommended ages for those roles was significantly lower, essentially showing the same thing that we saw earlier, that it quietly reinforces who is more experienced and who isn't. But that is not all. LLMs amplify this, even distorted view further of age-gender associations. When the researchers asked ChatGPT to generate resumes and evaluate resumes for both female and male-sounding names, and again, when a female name is given, ChatGPT generated resumes with fewer years of experience than when you use a male name. On average, men got about a year to a year and a half of experience advantage over women, and this gender effect also showed up when ChatGPT evaluated these resumes. ChatGPT judged resumes to be of higher quality with older age, and so because they think that women are seen as younger and less experienced, they're rated lesser quality. To summarize, there's a systematic distortion in how women's ages are depicted online, especially in high status context, in a way that puts older women at a disadvantage in hiring and promotion. What's also frightening is that this age-related gender bias is amplified by the most common tools that we use and take for granted, like Google, search engines, and chatbots. And these don't reflect the true reality of the US populations. And so this perpetuates our perception of age and gender and leads us to associate women with inexperience, less wealth, and less status. Online content is now how most people see and interact with the world. I remember reading the book called Depicted, and this was written by the co-founder of OkCupid. He talked about how, well, at least in dating, the data that we put into our world reflect more accurately who we are as people than who we prefer to say out loud in real world. But I wonder if that's no longer true. Maybe data that sound objective aren't truly objective, and they can further deepen our misunderstanding of what's happening in the world around us by consciously or subconsciously misrepresenting truth. This study makes me think about how important it is to remember how some of the most convenient tools that we use and take for granted, like Google and ChatGPT, have the power to silently blind us to our experience of the reality. I want a society where facts matter and not just opinions. We all have inherent bias, of course, whether we recognize it or not. Speaking for myself, I have to be cautious. When I think of a CEO, I default to an old man. And that's the moment to pause, look for evidence, and reestimate. I shouldn't be surprised to see women CEOs or women in badass leadership positions. This is another reminder that we all play an active role in this because all of this data had to come from somewhere, and that provider was us. So this starts with something as simple as not calling women girls in professional settings when we don't call men boys. This is just another example of how our society collectively misrepresents women covertly as inferior to men, or even speaks of women purely in comparison to men. The internet shouldn't decide who is experienced or who isn't. Facts should. So if this changed how you view search engines and chatbots, let me know in the comments what you think, and please share this video with the HR because they need to hear it.